Hey, are you all ready to get this started?
Going live.
Listener discretion is advised.
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
3, gonna be savage. 2, grab your shit. 1, do it.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
We believe Ryan is the man to lead our football operations into the future. And I'm pleased to say that we've extended his contract through the 2021 season.
To start, I would like to thank our fans. I know this hasn't been easy, and the results aren't what we all want. But their passion, their support is unmatched, and I can't thank them enough. I'm extremely appreciative to both George and Ted for their continued support. This is not something I take for granted, and I'm going to continue to do everything in my power to get the best staff, coaches, and players in place to make this city proud. This is a difficult day. Early this morning, I informed Coach Fox that we were going to head in a different direction. Shortly after, he addressed his staff and the team. I have the utmost respect for Coach Fox. He's a great friend, and I want to thank him for the last 3 years as our head coach. He poured everything he had into the Bears, and he's been a tremendous force in changing the culture and the mentality in this building. He helped set the foundation for this organization to go to new heights. However, in the end, where we stand today, the results on the field over the last 3 seasons simply isn't good enough. I understand those results are also a reflection on me. I have to do a better job. But as I stand here today and I look at where we're heading, there's sincere optimism. You look back at this time last year, we had major questions. We had major questions at the most important position on our team, quarterback. We were aggressive in our approach to address that position, and we couldn't be happier in the direction that it's heading. It's on us to continue to surround our young quarterback with the talent he needs to succeed. We must continue to add to our young core, steadily develop the players on our roster, and build upon the foundation we already have. Our impact starters are mostly younger players, and we must build upon that. If we do that, it's only going to pay dividends going forward.
This is a special edition of Bears Hour Live. We come to you just minutes after Ryan Pace's press conference where he officially announced that Coach John Fox is no longer the coach of the Chicago Bears. For us here at the Bears Barroom, this is a day we have long waited for. And with me to talk about that and what the team needs to do moving forward and much more are draft doctor Phil Atoshin and Shane Marsaw. Welcome, fellas.
Hey, Aldo.
Yes, sir.
We had a plan.
We had a plan?
We had an anthem. And it came to fruition.
That's right.
And there's a lot of haters out there. But if they're not hating, then you ain't doing it right. And that's how we do it in the bar room. We are going to speak the truth. And I can't take center stage without my posse, my crew here at the bar room. Shane Moneyman Marsaw and yourself, just how many man hours we put into really saying this needed to happen. And before we get into that, the Ryan Pace, I mean, applaud the Chicago Bears for doing what we knew was the right thing to be done. This isn't celebrating someone's loss of a financial job at Aetna or your local grocery store or something. This is an entertainment, performance-based business. I've lived with coaches that have been fired and family. It's what we saw, and we really went hardcore after it. and speaking up. And today's a day that I finally can enjoy my Di Serono, that I can finally enjoy a laugh of gratitude and pat each other on the back for standing up for the truth. And that's what we do here. I love you guys, and I love the bar room, and I'm very happy today that, you know, you admit your faults and mistakes and move on, and they did by firing Fox.
Well, in my opinion, it took them a little too long to admit their faults, and I've got a lot more to say about that and about Ryan Pace's overall performance at the press conference today. But first of all, I also want to make sure that Shane gets in here. Shane, you've been under the weather. Everybody wants to know how you're feeling now. In the chat room, you're getting lots of well wishes and welcome back. Why don't you kind of keep us up to date here on how you're doing health-wise?
Oh, yeah. He's back.
He finally hits the note.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No, that's right, exactly. No, I'm doing good. I want to give a little shout out to all the Barflies and you guys, and got a lot of, you know, well wishes, and really made me feel loved by all the fans out there. So I appreciate everybody that did reach out to me. But we won't make this about the smartest man right now. We'll save that for the 100 proof, right, Phil? But this has been a long time coming. This day, and it's, you guys have heard me say that I'm 41 years old, and I'm that degenerate fan that sits there through, you know, if the Bears are getting beat 38-0, I'm going to watch it until the zeros are on the clock. And for the first time in my life yesterday, and I texted Phil this during the game, I really was almost completely disinterested in the game. And, you know, the outcome, really my main focus was injuries, not wanting to get, you know, Mitch hurt or, you know, having something happen to Jordan Howard. But I look at today a lot like I do draft day. I made a comment to Phil as soon as the Bears made the move and got the quarterback. It was a new direction, and it's something that needed to happen. And I really think today is the same thing. And you need to sync up these two important positions, because Barflies out there, no matter what people want to say to you, if they say that coaching is overrated, it's a ridiculous comment. Coaching in the NFL, coaching in the NFL is not overrated. It's it's underrated, if anything. So this bullseye is on Ryan Pace now, and it's where it should be. And he's got to bring in the shipmate to match up with Mitch Trubisky and get this franchise out of the doldrums that we've been stuck in for way too long.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Way too long. And, you know, while Ryan Pace did take accountability for the team's inadequate performance over the last 3 years, it still felt a little hollow to me. And this whole buddy thing that he had with John Fox, let me tell you something. I've got a lot of years of experience working in corporate America and working along professionals who know that business is a cutthroat business. You don't get buddy with your head coach. You don't get buddy with the guy in the office next door to you if you're his boss. You have to have some distance from that kind of relationship, because it can get in the way of what you are paid to do, which is to win. And so now I am concerned that Ryan Pace may have known that John Fox was inadequate for the job, but just gave him another year, gave him another 2 years to get the job done because he was his close friend. And that really pisses me off, because it took us less than one full season to know that this head coach was not qualified for the job. He was a dinosaur. His methods of running the team were outdated. He could not develop young players. If you would have known what happened with John Elway and John Fox, you know that he was bringing the same kind of coaching philosophy to Chicago without the talent of a Peyton Manning, without the talent of a Von Miller, without a tremendous defense. And so to think that John Fox could have rebuilt this team was just asinine for Ryan Pace to believe that, and he should have cut his losses a lot earlier. He should have been at George McCaskey's door saying, I made a mistake. We made a mistake. We need to fire this guy and move on. He should have done it before. And so what happened at that press conference today was a guy who was nervous. His mouth was dry. He looked older than he looked 20 years older than his previous news conference. This to me was very, very concerning. Now, I'm not going to give up on Ryan Pace. I'm hoping that he's learned from his mistakes and he gets this team back on track. But I am concerned about where this team is headed under Ryan Pace. He's our next guy on our target hairs. He's got to make some right decisions here, not only with this coaching hire, but also with player acquisition first in free agency and in the draft. It is time to see results. And I know his contract has been extended, but that's not going to stop us from demanding some positive results out of this. And I'm not necessarily saying we have to have a winning season next year, but we need to see better results in terms of player performance and get a sense that this team is on the rise and that bar graph is going steeper up than it has been the last 3 years. Phil, I'll give it to you.
I think you hit on some points that are very appropriate, and the biggest one being the manipulation of truth that they talked last night, but then it's today, and he informed all this stuff. Obviously, if he's doing research on the next head coach, the transparency factor, I like the fact that he pointed it at himself. But that's kind of par for the course, right? So the transparency of this isn't good enough, and the friendship, respect, tiptoe, I didn't like at all, Aldo. I'm 100% with you. It is what it fucking is, and it wasn't good at all. It's not good enough. It was awful. And to say we expect winning next year is not a fault. Shane sent out a great tweet talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Is anybody scared of the Vikings? And he sent me a personal text, and it read my mind specifically. And one of the Barflies, Nelson Daniel, sent a similar text. Do they scare you? No. That's your top in your division. And we know Aaron Rodgers covers a lot of war. This team has the talent. An NFL coach texted me today, and I tweeted it out there because I thought it was so appropriate. Don't get this confused. This is a top job, and this is why. And he broke it down like Shane did, right down the middle. Mitchell Trubisky, Cody Whitehair, Jordan Howard, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, those two young safeties. Then you've got Kyle Fuller. There is no reason, talent-wise, this team was as pathetic as it was. It was coaching. So when Shane led the show off, and that's why I cracked up, because there's the dumbest fans and the dumbest bloggers that are misleading people. And it's frustrating because I got to keep my mouth shut sometimes. But on my show, no. It's stupidity that breeds into people's minds and kind of misleads them. I'm sorry, I hit the P word and probably messed up the mic for a second. But
that's okay.
Stupidity reigns supreme. And that is why this Bears bar room exists and the Barflies step up in the pocket. Because we're going to express the truth that critical third downs given to a fullback that should be on no team's roster affect outcomes of games. This isn't a new thing that happened. So a competent coach and transparency in that presser, Aldo, was needed. And I know. I wanted to make sure I touched on all these things because I was getting frustrated too. The politics, the fact that Ted Phillips had to be out there and what have you, all of this shitty shot run organization crap still reared its head there. But the bottom line, and I know I'm probably stealing from Shane, is getting the most important position. I disagree with Mr. Pace to a point. It's the head coach. That is the most important thing right now, because that's the reason why. See, these narratives and national guys and these bloggers, they'll use the Rams. I've gone into debates. We spent hours talking about this. Me and Nolan Krutz gone to a debate. And you all know the other drama that transpired, which we'll address on 100 Proof. Here, coaching, philosophically, stubbornness, that wasn't okay. Ryan should have dead-ended that, understood that a direction needs, and then you reflect on the Rams and why they've changed a 180 over there is because philosophically, in game situations as well as preparation, they have now addressed their weapons. And if you look at them defensively and offensively, they went out. Wood, they drafted Cooper Kupp. They addressed the wide receiver position. They already had Gurley. You look at the Chicago Bears, it's similar. So it's about coaching. It always will be about blocking and tackling and teaching, and it always forever is going to be. No matter what offense and what philosophy, a defensive guy, an offensive guy, the right mind has to be hired here. Don't like how Ryan Pace handled some of the stuff here that you addressed, Aldo. But, I mean, Shane always argues with me, you don't have to win the presser. I get it. But transparency in the shittiest of times that we've ever seen here and the lies at Hallis Hall needed to be addressed, and I thought he kowtowed. We're going to talk about it. No, you hire the guy. George and Ted should not even be around only to sign the paperwork like a lawyer and an attorney at a mortgage closing. That's it. You're the football real estate agent. You're not Mr. Carter. You are Mr. Pace. Sign, seal it, get it right. These guys should be addressed and handed out, and the coaching people should be brought in immediately to get in play that you're serious, because this job is one to really like. Don't fall for that false narrative.
How hard is it to answer this question? Who will make the final decision on the coaching hire? I will.
Yep.
You know, that's it. I will, period.
It really
you don't have
bothered
to
me.
Get into the collaborative nature and how wonderful things are to have Ted and George around to bounce ideas off. And, you know, we've always had this collaborative. Fuck, the collaboration hasn't worked, God damn it. Give me a break.
The collaborative effort was definitely the phrase of the day in that press conference.
Oh, my God.
Maybe we could have Nikki run back through and watch it and get us a pitch count on that. But, you know, Aldo, I think you hit on it, too, and that's something that I wrote down in my notes when they were going over this, is you could hear how dry Ryan Pace's mouth was when he was talking. Yeah. It was very, very noticeable when I was watching it on TV. And part of me, and you guys know me well enough, know that I tend to look at things just from a little bit different perspective. To me, I almost looked at it like he knows that the bullseye is squarely on his forehead. And to me, that's a good thing. That's exactly where the bullseye needs to be. John Fox is a huge issue, and I'm not trying to give John Fox credit here, but Ryan Pace doesn't have these guys to say, all right, you know, this is a Fox issue, or this is a Dowell Loggins issue, or Ernie Accorsi pushed these guys on me. This is all the Ryan Pace show now. The bullseye is squarely on his forehead, and I think you saw a little bit of that unfold today. I think he was nervous, like you said, Aldo. I think he had that dry mouth, and I think he was very guarded, and he wanted to almost kiss a little bit of ass with ownership. You know, this is a collaborative effort. Well, yes, there's a collaborative effort with anything in football, even when it comes down to the 53. I know a lot of fans will say, "Oh, he's saying this," and if you're anti Ryan Pace, then you're just going to look at everything through a negative light. But to me, I don't want to say I took pride in it, but I felt the pressure on Ryan Pace, and to me, I think that's a good thing.
I agree. I got sorry. I got distracted by AC Lady Loves the Bears, and I got to tell you, all of the disclaimers about swearing and stuff. Sorry, all that stuff is out the door. We're gonna swear like crazy. But I just saw.
Well, I didn't hear it. Grab your shit to start the show, so I figured we were free.
This is a special show.
That was the last thing that they said to Ryan, or that was the last thing Ryan Pace said to John Fox today. Grab your shit.
And get the hell out of here. All right.
Yeah.
I just got distracted because Lady Love on Twitter, our good friend Lady Love, says, I don't think I've ever seen a time when people so freely talked about or showed their love of oral sex. And so I just got distracted by that. Sorry, Shane.
I'm a big fan. I agree. I'm totally down with it.
Very clean.
Yep.
Very.
We should have called this a special 100 proof show because it definitely has that edge to it. Oh man. Okay,
but
so go ahead.
Don't you think that it was important though that he shows a little? I know you want your guy up there to be confident and moving forward, but I look at it as a positive that the pressure was noticeable today on him. And I think I think it's a positive sign.
I mean, you could look at it both ways. I just don't like, I'm being just a football coach here. I don't like kowtowing to politics and ownership. I know later I DM'd you guys and sent you a Adam Hogue who kind of always wins my champion award in questioning. And I thought he did a good job again today asking the harder questions in the football related, which is a pro and a coaching. Also, Jeff Dickerson kind of stepped up today and asked a few tough questions. So that was good to see. But my point was later, apparently, Ted Phillips kind of backpedaled a little bit on his involvement in the coaching search. And let's face it, I know from more than one person that Ernie Accorsi was the reasoning and rationale behind John Fox's hiring and the friendship stuff that Aldo pointed out and what they've gained throughout this time. That's fine and dandy. And I think he handled that okay in saying that it's a performance. It's also on me. But now it's your time. And I think he addressed he was kind of by himself. And that kind of worries me, Shane. And I got to say, because he didn't have his guys, his pro personnel, his college director, and he feels more comfortable surrounded by a team. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But in this stage, in this format of getting the right head coach and knowing that it's got to be, what's his thought process behind it is scaring me, because I don't want him leaning on 20 other people's to make the decision. You got to be looking for a certain quality. We talked about maniacal. You have to have that guy. And if it's about an offensive guy and he doesn't want to give away how many, all that was dumb. Say, we're going to do, if it has to be 20 guys, we're going to do. Just be transparent to the fact that you need to win. And that kind of disappointed me today.
Well, I think one thing you got to look at too, Phil, is we've kind of heard through the grapevine, and it's been brought up quite a bit this week. Obviously everybody knows at this point that John Fox was not Ryan Pace's guy, but he's going to be part of Ryan Pace's track record. That part of it is what it is. But we heard, through back channels that Dan Quinn was Ryan Pace's ultimate selection that he wanted to move forward with to lead the Chicago Bears. So I think you have to look back at that. I mean, public speaking is important, especially in a team team sport like this, you want to be able to rally behind, the guy that's actually leading your franchise. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's the ultimate factor. If he's more comfortable behind the scenes, working with his guys and hitting on, bringing Mitch Trubisky in and stuff like that, I think that ideally is more important. And guys, at the end of the day, he could have got up there and been completely transparent and soaped up everybody's ass and made everybody happy. And if the Bears go out next year and go 5-11, it means nothing. And you turn it around the other way. If he went up there and was completely dismissive and blew off the entire press conference, and the Bears go out there and go 13-3 and win the division, nobody's going to look back at the press conference. At the end of the day, the Chicago Bears have to go out and they have to start winning consistently. It's not winning press conferences consistently. It's a part of it. Yes, it is. It's absolutely a factor. But none of this is going to change until the Bears start to win.
You're right about that. I've got a poll up on Twitter asking the question, if you heard Ryan Pace's press conference, please share your opinion on how he did. 19% are saying they were impressed. 22% are saying not impressed, and 59% are saying said some good things, but... And that's pretty much how I feel. I mean, there were certainly some things that he said about the young nucleus of this team and that they're, in a better place now than they were 3 years ago. I agree with that. This team should be a very attractive job for any head coach candidate. That is true, but it was, some of the what we've already discussed. I want to rehash it about Pace's performance and his lack of transparency on certain things and so forth that just got me really pissed off. You can point the finger at yourself and say, I got to do a better job and so forth, but please be transparent about what some of those things are. Now, I missed a portion of the press conference. Was he asked at all about the Glennon Giraffe Gaff signing, guys? Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, he did. He kind of skipped over that.
Well, no, I didn't think he skipped over it exactly, Phil. He said essentially what really I think I kind of alluded to is he said they were aggressive in their attack to fix the quarterback position, and he said we essentially took two swings of the bat. And that's really what we've been talking about. And yes, I mean, outbidding themselves and guaranteeing $18.5 million, again, that's on Ryan Pace.
Well, no media member, Shane, went back at him to ask him.
No, they were too concerned about
tiptoeing.
They were too concerned about asking the same question about how many people were on the hiring list. He told them that he wasn't going to talk about it, but they brought it up 6 or 7 more times and just rephrased it different. But we should come to expect that from Chicago media at this point.
They should have done what you said, and he did, in my eyes, kind of skip over his assessment of Glennon by saying, yeah, we took 2 swings at the bat. You could have addressed, 2 swings, you spent $18.5 million, and he was a terrible thing. And try to get that out of him, he kind of, I'm not going to kill the guy for that. Right. I am upset with the media for not. They should have went after him again on the Glennon thing. He did
say it didn't work out. I mean, that's
he
not.
He did say that. He did. You're right.
That's not breaking news, and I don't think there's probably very many general managers that look at the respect that he paid John Fox, and John Fox isn't a part of the Chicago Bears as of this morning anymore. And I mean, I myself, Phil, I didn't expect him to come out and bash Mike Glennon while he's still technically a member of the Chicago Bears. But I think he addressed it pretty much the only way that you could without just coming out and outright saying the guy is horrible and I'm not sure if he's even a backup quarterback.
Yeah. Could he have said, listen, I whiffed there. I'm going to learn from that.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how I would handle that question.
Well, I think that's what he said when he said he took 2 swings of the bat. I think he was kind of implying he thinks that he may have hit on one and the other one was a swing and a miss.
Right. I wish he would have said. Hold on a second. I wish he would have said, "Listen, I put Glenn in an impossible situation. I brought him here as the starter when in reality we knew who our starting quarterback was going to be. Maybe not in 2017, but definitely in 2018 and beyond. And additionally, we had him running an offense he was not suited for. I could have done a better job of giving him the resources he needed to succeed. He needed to be that kind of specific as opposed to taking 2 swings at a bat and all this freaking obscure stuff. That's part of what bugs me about Pace and all of the noise that comes out of Halas Hall. And speaking of noise, I got a 2-minute clip here of George McCaskey talking to the media. Now, I have not heard this, but so let's play it and see. Let's see if he says anything that's going to impress us.
Of substance?
Yes, or we can make more fun of the Bears organization. Here it goes.
Take your Bears hat off, Phil.
Disappointed, and rightly so. We know that you've been getting the business for being a Bears fan when you go to the grocery store or church or picking up the kids, wherever, because we're getting it too. This is taking longer than any of us expected, but we appreciate your support. Every pro sports team says they have the best fans in the world. We truly believe it. Secondly, I want to thank John and his staff and the players. They put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, especially the coaches. The hours are long and difficult, and that's hard on their families. And we appreciate their efforts. John saw his team through difficult times, and it's a testament to the type of players that we have here and their respect for John that they played for him as hard as they did. Finally, I want to reiterate our family's support for Ted and Ryan and Ryan's plan to get the Bears back and give Bears fans the winner they deserve.
George, you mentioned that the plan is taking longer than expected. So why is that support there still for Ted and Ryan in the roles that they are?
We think we have the right structure, and we think we have the right people in those positions. And we've seen some results in terms of player development and relying primarily on the draft for that development. We just haven't seen those results on the field in wins, and we're looking forward to that.
What do you want to see from your new head coach?
Wins.
There you go. He was honest there.
He was honest.
Jesus. I said it. I was on mute. I'm like, wins, and he said it. So
I had you a little low, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and rewrite everything these guys say. That would be kind of stupid of me. But boy, I wish I could rewrite what he just said. I mean, I am just not at all inspired. First of all, the guy looks like he's older than his mom. I'm watching the video.
Oh boy.
I'm watching the video along with the audio, and I just wish these guys would just announce, how they screwed up. We made a mistake in hiring a coach who wanted to win now when we should have immediately gone into rebuild mode. We made a mistake in keeping Jay Cutler around for 2 years. We had so much admiration for what he could do that it blinded us to the fact that we needed to start all over again and gone after a young quarterback harder and faster and taking some more chances on mid-round quarterbacks. We made a mistake on this and that, and and maybe I'm wrong, guys. Tell me if I am. Maybe hindsight is 20/20, but these are things I was saying 2-3 years ago. So I'm just irritated that these guys are just not saying the right thing, and that translates to me into whether these guys can make the right decisions. Now, I am convinced of one thing. I am convinced that Ted Phillips and George McCaskey are stepping further back from the decision making, and that this is Ryan Pace's team. I do think that these guys were perhaps involved too much when Ernie Casey, however you pronounce his name, was brought in to help with the GM search, and then kind of force-fed John Fox onto the whole organization, and Pace's arm was twisted into accepting that. But I do believe now that these guys have made the commitment of, okay, Ryan, we've given you this contract extension. We do like some of the things that you're doing. You are a good face for the organization. Go out there, and we have trust in you. I do believe that. And that, whether you like Ryan Pace or not, that really is the thing to do from a Bears organizational standpoint. What do you guys think?
I totally agree. It's, we, at the end of the day, we're all NFL football fans, college football fans. We love all of it. And is there a less media savvy group than the Chicago Bears? That's the thing that gets to me, just like you're alluding to, although it's everything seems so prehistorically scripted, and this is what Phil talks about too, and it's almost like they're to the point where they're talking down to their rabid fan base. And to me, I was really upset when I saw them say that Ted Phillips was going to speak first, but then I guess maybe it makes sense if he was the one that was going to announce the Ryan Pace extension, because they want to get that out there, publicly as quick as possible for potential candidates to know that, hey, that's not a lame duck GM in Chicago, but it's maybe what needs to be revamped, and Phil, you dealt with this directly, is the media relations department. They need to, maybe that's something that Ryan Pace, along with the sports science and looking into the injuries, maybe he needs to really look into that, because I'm not sure if there's a less media savvy football organization in college or the NFL. It's a lot of it's cringeworthy when you hear Ted and George talk at times, and a lot of times even with Ryan Pace today. He just sat there, and like you said, Aldo, it really gave you pause, rather than looking at this as a fresh start and saying, hey guys, we're sorry, we messed up, and we're gonna get this corrected.
Well, you can't skip over the fact that our music and the things and the discussions and hours of 100 Proof, we've analyzed this team. And the one consistent part has been Ted Phillips throughout the whole losing process. And how much of an influence does a president and a CEO take over in regards to a business model in Chicago over Ryan Pace? To me, that's gotta change. He should have been gone today. He should have been gone with Fox. And there should be your owner, George McCaskey, standing up there announcing his additional extension to Ryan Pace, because everything you said, Shane, the lame duck thing to try to get competitive in hiring a coach that's going to want to come to Chicago, he's got to know that the football operations are settled and secure. The Ted Phillips thing is a dinosaur, and it's like crabs, really, a sexually transmitted disease that we're carrying with this guy. I'm sorry. I'm going to be as explicit as possible. When I talk to people around the league, he's the one thing they continually laugh at. So his job, to be perfectly honest, is the media relations and how this team is viewed antiquatedly. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know it's Shane's backyard and his family, but how they handle their coaches, their players, their media, department and breaking down draft choices, for God's sake. There's nothing hidden. There's no worry about giving a team in 2018, guys. It's amazing, 2018. An advantage competitively when I could tweet out something right now filming off of their team, you know, the all 22. Every team has this stuff. So stop talking down to a fan base. Stop allowing Ted Phillips whatever power you think he needs to wherever he got you, nude photos, I don't know. He's a disease. And unfortunately, you gotta pray that Ryan Pace does what he needs to do. Despite, I see Aldo's point. I totally agree on that end, and I see Shane's point, the press conference and winning that. But I think when talking to a fan base that is so downtrodden and so demoralized, really, then you start talking arrogantly and not confidently, now you have problems, because how does the next head coach come in here and elicit light in their personality? It always comes down to winning and losing, but you really got to capture the temperature and the makeup of your football team. And really that, and I know it's a bunch of stuff moving and all at once, but that's the problem. The Bears have not been able to move the chessboard in the appropriate way. Ted Phillips, we don't want to give a competitive advantage. I'm not. All that stuff needs to go. He needs to go. Unfortunately, he's not. He's there. So how do you work around that? That's going to be how we watch going forward. But to me, it was so disappointing to see him and not George announce Ryan Pace's thing. And again, it goes back to the business model. Is this a business? Is this about making money off of these fans and all of us? Then if that's your goal, then you're just lying again. And that right there should have been addressed by Ryan Pace and George McCaskey. And I'm glad at the very end, it was about wins. Good. Now that's where we could work with. Because bottom line in this whole thing, and it'll be the last thing I say in regards to this is the game of football. It's a game. Last time I coached and administrators and politics started to get involved with it, the winning would take away from it, allowing parents to, my son's good, or coach yelled at my son, all that kind of stuff, that noise and worry, that is a losing culture. That I'm worried about what Brad Biggs is going to write. I'm worried about asking a tough question because I'm not going to be allowed here. All this politics, it's football. Ask the damn question that needs to be asked. Don't be belligerent in thinking that the head football coach wasn't the biggest issue with this football team. He's your friend, like Aldo said. You let that get in the way of what it wasn't good enough. It actually wasn't even in the ballpark of good enough. It was awful. When I watch tape and I know this stuff that I know that isn't okay, and then it's corroborated with other coaches that are laughing, then you become a laughingstock. So your personnel is being misused because of coaching decisions. The coaches control the board, guys. It's football. You can't let politicians like Ted Phillips come into that. So hopefully Ryan Pace completely has control. I'm not worried about his statement to get this out too. He's going to have control. He should have control of the 53, and he was completely right in saying it will be a collaborative with the head football coach. I don't think McDaniels or Jim Harbaugh or anybody else that we love or think should be in this is going to be deterred by a GM saying that. That's what it should be. He's a GM. That's his job, to get talent, acquire, and use all the faculties that you have at your disposal. And the head coach and the positional coaches are huge resources of information. But at the end of the day, it's got to be you. And I feel like, as Shane said, throughout his dry mouth and everything, he kind of came around. No, this is my keys to the car now, and I got to drive it. So it's not what you want in a whole, but I think the poll really captured what I feel too. There's some good things that I like. Getting John Fox out of here was number one. It needs to be done. Don't agree with anybody telling me that a football coach isn't important in the NFL or at any level, because that's just sheer and utter stupidity. It's utter stupidity. You look at this 53, and I know we're going to do it all off season, but there's plenty of talent here. Plenty. Even despite the injuries, there's plenty. The head coach and the game plan and the preparation and scheming open, all these things are the head coach. They're not the players. Mitchell's not drawing it up in the huddle in the backyard. Okay? He needs to learn how to read. He's got to know his personnel, when the motion. And it's not as hard, but it is hard when you're stupid. And that is where the Bears lie, in stupidity. And Ted Phillips just was the cherry on top of stupidity for me today. And that's really my rant there.
Now, a couple of things. I got a little rant too regarding Ted Phillips, and then I want to play some sound from Ted. Chicago Bears on Twitter account posted his 2-minute interview with the media, so I want to play some of that. And again, I haven't heard that, but let me say this first about Ted Phillips. And Chris Armstrong in the chat room points out that Ted Phillips is the CEO, and she's right about this. He's CEO president because he does things that the McCaskey family cannot do, which is take care of the business side of things. Now, some organizations, not many in football, but some organizations do have a football person in that president CEO role because they've got the capability of doing that. I believe even John Elway may have that president GM role with Denver. But typically, as the last time I looked, because I did look into this, most presidents and CEOs of teams are guys from a business standpoint. The issue is that it appears to me that Ted Phillips and the McCaskey family are still penny pinching. And this is a narrative that we've heard about the Chicago Bears for years. And I, for a number of years, was dispelling that because NFL teams have to spend a certain amount of money on player contracts. And the Bears do. They're forced to spend the money. But upon closer look and more thinking about this, there is reason to believe that perhaps the Bears as an organization are still in that penny pinching mode because of a number of reasons, and I'll give you just a few. First of all, the McCaskey clan is pretty large. There's a lot of kids and so forth, and they look at the bottom line. They look at Ted Phillips and thank him and worship at his feet because the dividends they get back from the profits that he is gaining because he spends little money on outside things like the facilities and contracts for coaches and other things. He looks at that and they worship at his feet, which is one of the reasons he has maintained that job for so long, because the bottom line is good for the McCaskey family, for all those kids who get shares. Some of those kids want out of ownership of the team. They rather take the $2.5 billion that the franchise is worth and run away. But as long as they still have ownership, they praise Ted Phillips because of the amount of money that they're getting into their pockets. Secondly, when you look at the CBA contract, the Bears, like every other NFL team, has to spend a certain amount of money within a 4-year period. And we are just now going into year 2 of the period, which is perhaps why they didn't spend money on Alshon Jeffrey to sign him up, because they wanted to hold off on spending the money as much as possible so that they could gain interest on the money that they have stored. That's speculation on my part, but I think it's worthy of considering because, again, this smells rotten from Ted Phillips, from the Ted Phillips office. It smells like he is too determined to save a buck than to spend money on a winning football team. Shane and Phil have been preaching about the turf at Soldier Field. They can spend the money. They can go to the Chicago Park District and work out whatever to get that 21st century turf in there so that we don't have the monster tripping up players, especially now that the team is designed for speed as opposed to how it was yesteryear. So there's just a bunch of things, and we're going to talk about this more, whole Ted Phillips thing in the future going on, and we're going to do more research and present informed opinions on this. But there's certainly something rotten at Halas Hall, and I think it comes from Ted Phillips' office. Now let's hear from Ted Phillips, who about an hour ago talked with the media.
What is the value of that in allowing a head coaching candidate to see the continuity that will be there with Ryan?
I think it's important. I think any head coach wants you've got to have that relationship with the general manager, to even want to come into an organization, and to know that the organization is behind the general manager is critical. So to answer your other question, David, I approached Ryan because I thought it was important, and he's a humble guy, so he never talks about his own situation. But I thought it was important, and he deserved it.
What's your role in selecting a new coach? Where do you fit in?
George and I are going to be kind of just support resources for Ryan. He's leading the charge. He's doing all the reference checking. He's come up with his list right now. We'll see how that goes in terms of the competition and who comes in. But I don't think he's ever going to tell you exactly who's coming in. We'll talk later about whether or not once a guy interviews, we'll probably let you guys know who's interviewed.
What support resources mean?
What does that mean?
What does that
Well, I think, my years in this league, I've been around a lot of different head coaches, sharing ideas. We have a real collaborative environment here. So Ryan and I have a great relationship, along with George as well. So I think just giving our input into things to look for, how to assess the results of different interviews.
Things to look for.
No.
Yes, we will. Yes.
What do you like about what Ryan's done so far?
I think he's grown so much. I think he's.
What do you like? What he's done?
not
He's
afraid to
grown.
take risks. It's in player personnel. My opinion. It's a business where you don't get a 90% success rate. If you're getting a 60-65% success rate, I think most general managers would be considered successful. So you've got to take risks. You can't be afraid.
How
to
are
fail.
the Patriots? How do they measure in the percentage? Come on.
Yeah, right.
What is the value?
Chris asked a good question. Then why are the Bears spending a shit ton of money on renovation now? Well, that's because Ryan Pace has been crying about the renovation needed at Halas Hall for quite some time, and even John Fox made a point of bringing it up a few times in press conferences. So they know that in order to woo a qualified candidate, and I'm not saying the McCaskey family doesn't want to win. They do want to win, but they'd much rather see a profit than worry about wins and losses. I truly believe that is the mindset by many of the people in the McCaskey family. And again, that's just an opinion. I've never talked to any of the McCaskey family other than George McCaskey 25 years ago back at WBBM TV. And it wasn't about the Bears. So it's just my opinion. Shane, what's your opinion on the Ted Phillips issue?
Well, it's really no different than what I said earlier. It's, he's out there, like you pointed it out, Aldo. I think a lot of it is just the structure of he's going to be the one that announces the Ryan Pace extension. And it does irritate me when he's part of the press conference. I get that. But I think people hear the word, we're going to be there as a support system. This is going to be a collaborative effort. I think they automatically default to Ryan Pace is going to be sitting there and Ted Phillips is going to give him a list of coaches, and Ryan Pace is going to say, all right, I like these three, and Ted Phillips is going to say, oh, no, they're going to be, they're not going to be good for our bottom line. I don't think that is happening. That's probably happened in the past. I think it was funny when they asked Ted Phillips, what his support system, what does that really mean? And he said, well, I've been around a lot of head coaches. Well, yeah, there's a reason you've been around so many.
Exactly.
Maybe, you've
you have to hire so many.
Yeah, exactly.
You've done a terrible job assessing them.
So I think you are right, Aldo, when you say I think I don't think that he's involved in the football day-to-day stuff as much as, the negative Bears fans want to really believe. I don't think he's in there putting his input on draft picks and stuff like that. I think you're right. I think this is going to be Pace's hire. And if Ryan Pace wants to go back to Ted and bounce a couple of questions off of him. I mean, at some point, he's been involved in the NFL for a very long time. I'm sure that everything's not negative about the guy. I'm sure he's got to have some nuggets of wisdom up in his little Teddy Phillips brain someplace that maybe could be beneficial to Ryan Pace. But it's just that overall, guys, we're not winning. And it brings all of this stuff forefront. You see Ted Phillips there, and you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be more the same old. He's involved, so we're going to suck. It's just it really is. It's a collaborative effort. Ryan Pace needs to do a better job. Josh Lucas needs to do a better job.
Awful. He should be fired, Shane. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm glad you brought him up.
He's the pro personnel guy, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if Ryan Pace is going to point the finger at himself, like he said, he's got to point his finger at himself with Josh Lucas. That's why Josh Lucas is here, and that's pretty much been Pace's right-hand man. But back to Phillips, I think a lot of it it bubbles over because we're sick of the losing, and I think I don't want to say he's an easy target, but I just keep on repeating myself. At the end of the day, none of this matters. The product on the field has to improve. The coaching staff has to improve, and none of the behind-the-scenes minutia is at the end of the day, they just have to win. Everything else will get better once they start winning.
And that's hiring the right coach. That's the only penicillin to this. It really is. So any fan or any media member thinking that, coaching isn't important and all of that, obviously Bears Barroom is going to fight you tooth and nail. You expect us to address stupidity. Just expect that in 2018, because there's going to be a lot of changes, and there's going to be things that we're going to have to address appropriately and truthfully from a football perspective. And Shane, excellent job. I'm so glad that you're healthy and you're back, and as well as you, Aldo. You're not, guessing. You're you've lived this. We've all lived it. He's the one constant. Some of the things really don't sit well with me on a political thing. This is now getting the right coach. Now, if that right coach is my number one target, Jim Harbaugh, and people look at how fans act. Oh, he lost today. He's terrible. If that guy is your number one choice and you're Ryan Pace, and you're asking because he's getting offered by some other team or to stay at Michigan $10 million, and he wants $10 million, and he wants a piece of the franchise, whatever it is. But you have decided that's your best. That's the guy that's going to turn this around, and you decide financially it doesn't make sense in a $1 billion business. You've lost, because, as I've said many a time, you don't worry. There's no cap on a coach and his staff. Winning is going to bring in so much more money. Matt, you're a 3-win team and you still made money. Imagine, and then you're a 5-win team and you still made money. Imagine if you're on a 13-3 team, dominant again. Think about how much money, and the head coach is a character and a winner. Because as Shane said, it's about winning. He's right. That's what it is. And my fear is the financial concern from that end. If it's not there and Ryan Pace has full go, there should be no limitations to where he has to go. College, whoever it is, and the wild card, the screwball, Nagy, DiFilippo, what these guys want, what their plan is. You got to listen to everybody, but finances should not get in the way. What you're paying John Fox to leave doesn't prohibit you from moving on to hire the next coach. You paid $18 million to Mike Glennon. Think about that. In a cap. He's gone. He made his money holding a clipboard. He's driving a Maserati. He's feeling good about himself. So there's no feeling bad that we're telling the truth about anybody. But there should be no limitations on the coach. And the one other thing, Aldo, unless you guys want to address the financial end of a contract, do you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to address this. It was very, very crystal clear. And I don't know how many other shows or bloggers or whatever, so you could steal this, that Ryan Pace was not interested in Vic Fangio as a head coach. It was clear to me that there was some weird energy in regards to a question asked more than once about Vic Fangio and the turnaround of that defense. Ryan Pace made it clear, and I'd only paraphrase. Aldo and Shane and others have done a great job of capturing Alec. Trey Biz captured a lot of the presser for Bears Barroom. But it was something to the extent of, yeah, well, your defense has really turned around in the last 3 years. He's like, yeah, it has. I love what Vic's done, but a lot of credit has to go to John Fox, too. He made a point of that, to bring it back to Fox again. Not someone addressed him, I think it was Dickerson or Hogue, about why not. Did you ever have thoughts of firing Fox after Green Bay and giving Vic an opportunity to be a head coach? He didn't want to reveal that. He sidestepped it and said no, he didn't. So to me, a lot of fans, including myself, wanted to see Vic in that role. Also felt like Vic deserved, I believe, Aldo, me and you are walking. I know Shane kind of is not on the Vic market, but I think he deserved an interview. I don't know that he's going to get that. I just want to make sure that we address that in this show. Did you guys feel the same way in listening to this?
I think there is a animosity there a little bit. Maybe that's a little too strong of a word, but it definitely.
Good word.
Yeah, you could definitely feel it. To me, it all comes down to, I think you'll see this reflected in the coaching search. I think it comes down to, two different schools of thought, like Vic Fangio and Phil. How many times have we talked about it? Vic Fangio, he has done a wonderful job, but he's not free from blame either. There's been times where his lack of aggression has been, very, very concerning to me. And I think, Ryan Pace didn't draft Leonard Floyd to have him drop back into coverage, even 60% of the times. You know what I'm saying? And I think the lack of aggression, I think you're going to see that on the offensive side of the ball with the head coaching search, and I think you're going to see the same type of thing on the defensive side of the ball. Now, will they blow a bunch of smoke up, the fans' ass and maybe Vic's ass too as a going away present to give him the cursory interview for head coach? I can see that happening, but to me, I just don't think to me, at this point, listening to Ryan Pace, especially today, I don't think he's a viable candidate I don't think he's a viable candidate to Ryan Pace to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Well said. Aldo?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the Fangio, because you and I were kind of, this guy deserves to be interviewed for a possible head coach. He turned around a more morbid defense when he first got here. He's clearly got the respect of his players as well as around the league. That's attractive. And he's never gotten the full opportunity to be a head coach. Now, that might say a lot about him behind closed doors. I happen to know Coach Vinny Sinagra, now coaches at Temple. He actually hired him at Milford Academy. So I have a little bit of connection to this backstory. So I feel as though he deserves an interview. Aldo, where are you standing on this?
Yeah, and I apologize to you, Phil, and to Shane. I wasn't listening to the last couple of minutes because there was a technical problem that I'm trying to address with MixLR. I think most of our listeners have a clear connection now, but there are still a couple, and so I'll keep working on it on this end. But to answer your question regarding Vic Fangio, I would love to see Vic Fangio get an interview. I think he definitely deserves one based on the performance that he's had over the last 3 years. I think he's an excellent teacher. Clearly, the trend now is to bring in young offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches to be head coaches, and the Bears definitely fit that bill of need, given that Mitch Trubisky is the centerpiece now for this franchise. So that's the first question I would ask Vic Fangio in an interview if he was granted one, and I don't think he's going to be, but based on what I heard from Ryan Pace today, but he deserves one, and that's the first question I would ask Vic is, Vic, the resources we've poured into Mitch Trubisky, how would you develop him, and how would you win with him as your quarterback, and see what he's got to say. We know what Vic Fangio can do with the defense. We know that he can win with a subpar roster. I mean, that defensive side of the football was decimated by injuries in the second half of the season, yet they still continue to play top-notch football against every opponent with the exception of the Philadelphia Eagles. And so Vic Fangio, in my mind, clearly deserves a shot, and I would hate to see him go, especially, since the Green Bay Packers now are in need of a defensive coordinator and a general manager, by the way. I hold Vic Fangio in high esteem, and so do the players. Adam Johns with the Chicago Sun-Times is reporting that was a constant theme in the locker room today when the reporters went in there. The defensive players and some offensive players were just speaking so highly of Vic Fangio and said they would love to play again for him, whether it's in Chicago or anywhere else. And so that's a great testament. But at the same time, you want whoever is brought in as your offensive coordinator, you want that person to bring in his own staff so that he feels comfortable, so that there aren't any excuses, and you want that defensive coordinator to run his own scheme. We saw what happened with Tucker when he came in and tried to run Lovie Smith's scheme. That was a complete and utter disaster. You've got to trust that the new people that you bring in are going to bring in their ideas and their way of executing the offense or the defense, and so that's where we're at. Vic Fangio deserves an interview, but if he doesn't get the interview, or if he gets it and doesn't impress and doesn't get the job, then whoever is hired as a new coach should definitely hire his own coordinators and coaching staff. That's all I got to say, which is plenty, I think.
Hopefully he gets an interview and moves on. I think I'm on Shane. I felt there was some animosity. I thought that was the right word, actually, Shane. And I know a lot of fans have DM'd me or questioned us. Does Vic deserve a shot? We felt in unison, in chorus, that he deserved that opportunity after the Green Bay game. I think we got our answer there from Ryan Pace that it wasn't an option. There seems to be maybe there's that feeling like he wanted out. They didn't let him out. And there was a separation there, offense and defense. It's not like we haven't seen that before. But, it is what it is. And it's going to be exciting to see the direction that Pace is going to go with this coaching search. And that's really the most important thing ultimately moving forward. And I just want to address one other thing that keeps popping up. The 3-4 scheme versus the 4-3 scheme. You drafted 3 years with the idea of changing philosophy defensively. The secondary is never affected by the front. It's just the coverages are the same. You mix them up. It's much like an offensive coordinator having the feel of when to call what kind of coverage and what kind of coverage is best suited to match up against a certain team. A team that has a lot of speed. Obviously, you don't want to match up man and with lesser talent. You want to go in zone to cover the speed deficiency. That kind of game plan and setup prior to competition is important to have the defensive coordinator who has that kind of feel, yada, yada. I completely agree with Shane. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand, because you've asked me, I wanted to address the secondary. So Kyle Fuller can play in a 3-4. He can play in a 4-3. He is a huge piece moving forward. Anybody saying no is retarded. Don't mean that, and I don't know how to put it in regards to football. It's just he needs to be tagged. I know there was this question to him, and Pace praised Kyle and his work ethic and coming back. I was hoping tag versus how his future with the team moving forward. Is he someone, and get that out there? And if Pace answered in the manner of, well, we don't want to talk about that, then I would have had an issue with it. Like Aldo said, and maybe Shane would be mad at me again.
I think the way that I honestly...
Are we missing Shane? Are we losing Shane?
I think the way that... can you hear me okay?
Now
okay.
We can.
Okay. When Ryan Pace was asked the question about Kyle Fuller, I thought the way that he phrased it was good news for Kyle Fuller coming back.
Yeah, me too.
They had the quotes today directly from Kyle Fuller. He said that he's, excited about hitting free agency, but he also is excited about, possibly being here because this is where he started and he likes all the guys and stuff like that. So I was one of the guys in the beginning of the season. I wasn't going to be surprised to, if they moved on from Kyle Fuller, but he balled out this year. You got to give the kid credit, and he deserves to get paid, and hopefully it's here in Chicago at the very least. He needs to get the franchise tag, and like you've said multiple times, Phil, you don't create another hole, and you don't let young talent walk out the door with nothing to show for it.
Guys. I also think it goes back to you too, Shane, and really assessing the risk reward at the cornerback position. Yeah, you got Amukamara, came in here on a 1-year prove-it deal, played well, but that doesn't transpire a lot. And you saw Gilmore go to New England, and he's been benched and then brought back. So, that cornerback position and the philosophy behind it, if you have a talent like that, you don't make holes, and really homegrown needs to be rewarded here, especially now that you've given a contract to Pace. And I know there's some sort of questions about stupidity with Pace and what have you, but I don't know if Shane, or did we really address the importance? The reason why they gave Pace an extension wasn't because he drafted great and missed out on free agency. It's because a potential coaching hire needs to know that the GM is secure. And that's why you do it, to match up. You're obviously getting 4 more years of Pace to match up with 4 more years of the new head coach that they hire. That's why that game is played, to be perfectly clear. So just figured I hit those 2 birds, Fuller and Pace, and hopefully I agree with you, Shane. I felt like he was praising and kind of recognizing the importance of his play this year to his future with the Bears.
Fellas, we have so many things to talk about, and thankfully we've got Bears 100 Proof tomorrow. We will tape probably a 2 to 3 hour show tomorrow. So let's wrap things up. I've asked people for some questions, and Isaiah Robles, of course, wants to know who's going to be the next coach, guys. So maybe
not John Fox.
Not John Fox. Thank goodness.
That's the only answer we got. I got 2 answers: no Dowell, no Fox, and 3, and no Fangio, it seems.
But here's what I would like to know from both of you guys: is what are the qualities you're looking for in the next head coach? Don't give me a name. Don't give me, any specifics on who. I want to know the type of coach you want to see as the next head coach for the Chicago Bears, which I would think is number 16 with the franchise. So why don't we begin with Shane, the money man, Marceau?
I want to see somebody that is aggressive and forward thinking. I want to see somebody that has some media savvy. I think that's important in a big market, especially after what we just went through. And even when you go back to Trestman loved to talk, but, you know, he always reminded me of the villain from Scooby-Doo. You know, damn you kids, looking at that guy. But I just, you know, I've said it multiple times on Twitter. I want the aggressive, forward-thinking, quarterback-centric, if that's the best avenue to go. And I think that's probably where we are headed. That is going to be driven, you know, Phil's word, maniacal, with the quarterback position and with the offense. Because to get back to when I texted Phil yesterday about, and this isn't to disrespect Minnesota. They have a lot of good players, and they have a good football team. But that's the second best team in the NFC, and the downtrodden Chicago Bears with you know, horrible coaching staff who quit. We were in the ball game.
Exactly.
I do not think that we're as far away as a lot of people think. If you get some competent people in here to get this offense jump started, and end of the day, I want somebody that's going to be aggressive and is going to get the best out of number 10. Because if you could talk about Ted Phillips, you can talk about George McCaskey, you can talk about Ryan Pace. The franchise is number 10 at this point, and he's the most important piece moving forward. I mean, something that we didn't talk about, guys, and I think it probably should be brought up. Mitch has some juice in this organization. You heard Ryan Pace allude to it today. They may include him in the head coaching process. I mean, we saw that with Jay Cutler, you know, and Phil Emery. He was brought in, but I don't want to sit here and say it's just going to be the best guy, because that just leaves it too wide open. I want a guy that's media savvy, aggressive, and is not playing Madden like we saw with our offensive coordinator and involving the fullback on crucial plays. That's I almost folded up shop when I saw that. I said, you have a fourth and
you did? What do you think I did?
4th and 1, you got a fullback dive, and then on a big third down play, it was just like Phil. I think you tweeted it out that he should have ran the route to the flag, and it was destined to fail from the get-go. But that's Dowell, and that's John Fox in a nutshell, and hopefully those days are over, but we soon shall see.
Let me make a comment on Shane's request that the next head coach be media savvy. And I too, I feel the same way. You need a head coach who's going to have
taking my thunder.
I'm sorry, but I'll turn it right over to you. You need somebody who's going to have a good relationship with the media, but that is something that the new head coach doesn't necessarily need to bring with him. That is something that, if the organization is well staffed, can be developed in the new head coach. It's a few communication sessions, and this is how we treat the media with this organization. At Ryan Pace, and the communications director should be telling the head coach, we treat the media with respect because they're the conduit to our football fans. We answer questions as transparently as possible without giving away any of our competitive advantage. We try to have press conferences that are honest and forthright, are short, and educate the fans and the media about what we are trying to do, not about obfuscation, not about concealing stuff and so forth. So a good communications director, and frankly, I don't even know who the CD is over at Hallis Hall, but they definitely need one better than they have now.
It's awesome.
Because to me, the guy hasn't shown anything. And if you bring in a head coach who doesn't have the respect of communicating with the public, then you've made a bad hire. Now you can say, well, Brian Belichick it doesn't have the respect of the media, and that is correct. But I would trade that quality for a Brian Belichick?
Bill Belichick.
I would trade that quality in a minute, but if I can build a head coach, it's going to be someone who has a respect of the media and the fans. So that's what I want to say. Phil, it's all yours.
Oh, you guys are hitting it. You guys are hitting it. I mean, she must have been a good-looking girl because no, in all honesty, I think Shane really, you look at Pete Carroll, he's an older gentleman, but he has the air of confidence that knowing this is a game and you got to have fun, and players, especially young players, need to be able to relate to the head coach, Jim Harbaugh, the dude, who was the dude, Lane Kiffin, tweeting out, having fun because you're confident that you're a winner. This quarterback here for Oklahoma grabbing his junk and having that swagger, that's what needs to be back. If that intimidates George and Teddy, that's an issue because Ditka didn't care. And the last time you won a Super Bowl was a guy that didn't care because he knew it was about, in the sauce, you got to have the olive oil and the onions and garlic cooking. That's the bottom line. You got to be a winner. That's the sauce that needs to happen. A confidence in yourself. There's no competitive advantage out here today. I'm totally, that is the biggest fraud, bigger than any blogger. There's no competitive advantage given to sharing if a guy's injured or not, if he's going to play or not. You're going to be prepared. The other team is fully prepared for backup quarterback, this quarter. It doesn't matter. Just be honest, be confident, be aggressive, as Shane was talking about, be media savvy, but most importantly, really, you got to hold the locker room and the players accountable. It's the most important thing that I saw with this coaching staff. Aside, you guys touched on everything I wanted. The Madden guesswork at the play caller. Obviously, the head coach and the offensive coordinator, whoever's calling plays, has got to be prepared. Got to use formation, scheme, players open. You're down talent at receiver. Well, I can formationally scheme Inman open and give that height advantage to Mitchell Trubisky and give him the read. That kind of stuff needs to be in this head coach's playbook. But the most important thing I saw that this coach didn't do is he was selectively holding players accountable. And it's got to be across the board. Leonard Floyd is loafing, get his ass out. You think it doesn't matter? I know it does. I really do, because once you send the message, it's like your father teaching you, or maybe he never did. You don't have a father. I'll teach you. The biggest bully picking on you, or your kid, you teach them. You just turn around and haul off and punch that kid as hard as you possibly can. Guaranteed the whole playground, everywhere or wherever you're at, is going to stop bullying you, because we don't tolerate bullying. So I'm going to teach you that kind of mentality needs to happen with your head coach. He's letting his offensive coordinator call plays. He's going to call plays. He's letting his defensive coordinator call the defensive game. But he's got to have the respect of everybody in the locker room. And once you allow your best player to loaf, it becomes a trickle-down domino. And really, that's the only thing you guys, I feel like, didn't touch on, that I think, because obviously the quarterback is the most important thing in this whole offseason. It's probably going to be an offensive coach, but don't be disappointed if it is a defensive guy that comes in here with a plan. Just let it play out. Have faith in Pace going forward. As hard as that might be for some of you negative fans and what have you, I believe that they took a step on. I can be on the 53% of the belief. That's where I am right now. And if the hire is right, I have my candidate. Shane has his. Aldo has his. But if the hire is right and they set a formula and really take an approach to this, because I believe when assessing Ryan Pace from afar, there's a lot of talent on this football team. I broke it down today. Other coaches, a coach in the NFL texted me that, as I said at the top of the show. It's true. And you saw a coaching staff fumble time and time again in personnel. That right guy has to come in here and knowing that Cody Whitehair is a center and he's going to stay there. I don't care if we have 17 injuries at guard. We're going to pick up a kid on a practice squad, or we're going to pick up a veteran and teach him the playbook at guard. But we're going to keep our Pro Bowl center there and not hinder his growth. And we've seen that the last 3 years happen, and that can't happen. And part of the GM's job and my job in assessing a coach, accountability and the proper use of personnel. It needs to happen going forward, and hopefully that's the tip top of what Ryan Pace is going to be doing when it comes to hiring the next coach, because we're going to cover it, Aldo. Tooth and nail. Oh, yeah. We are going to cover it.
Without a doubt. And let me tell you that tomorrow when we tape Bears 100 Proof, I would like to do something weird, out of the ordinary. I would like Shane and me to interview Draft Dr. Phil for the head coach job of the Chicago Bears. And
grab your shit. You're fired, Phil.
Fired before you're hired. But the reason that I would like to do this exercise and maybe devote 20 minutes or so, although that's probably one response for Phil. The reason I would like to do this is so that we can try to get a sense of what the questions are that Ryan Pace should be asking the candidates that he's going to bring before him. So, Shane, why don't you spend a little time tonight coming up with some questions? I'll spend some time coming up with some questions, and then we'll bring in Phil for a job interview and see how Phil responds to these questions. That'll give us a clearer picture as to what Phil feels is necessary for a head coach moving forward. And then on top of that, we will discuss some of the prime candidates each of us has. And I don't have a list of firm candidates. I have more of the questions that I would like to ask a Filippo from Philadelphia, Shaw from Stanford, and so forth. And because I don't know these guys, so for me to list, I prefer this guy over that guy, really, that's like coming with shit out of my ass. But I have questions. I have questions for these guys. And so I'm going to prepare some questions for Phil, put him on the hot seat. I think it'll be a fun exercise for us on Bears 100 Proof. We're also going to have our tweets of the week. We're also going to have all the regular features on Bears 100 Proof. And it's not just going to be tomorrow. It's going to be throughout the offseason. We're going to be bringing you our signature show, Bears 100 Proof, Shane Marsaw, Draft Dr. Phil, and myself, plus special guests from time to time and as often as possible, and we're just going to keep bringing it to you. In addition to that, John Buffone is going to do his last show of the season. He's asked that we move that to Wednesday, so on Wednesday you're going to have lots of programming to last you throughout the week, and maybe even some special programming if I can twist Shane and Phil's arm to come back towards the latter part of the week when we start getting more news about who the candidates are and so forth. We can provide an update show later in the week. And the website is also going to have some articles about the candidates, some in-depth stuff. So we've got plenty of stuff going on here at the Bears Barroom Radio Network and at bearsbarroom.com. I am so happy that our listeners, our barflies, are growing in numbers, and that's a big reason for that is you barflies out there letting other people know and writing good reviews for us on iTunes. Please continue to do so. And if you happen to run across a Bears fan who can't take a joke, who doesn't have any common sense, then please invite him over, because we'd love to fuck with him. Like this guy named Stan, who had the audacity to question the Firefox anthem and then goes out and criticizes the family members of our draft Dr. Phil. It was just super how the barfly swarmed in on this fucker, and he ran for his life. He knew he was a mother.
I'm your Huckleberry.
That's right. That motherfucker ran for his life, and that's what we have here. It's like Lucky Kurtz just wrote. It's some cult that we're developing here, and it is a cult. I love that. I love the fact that we are in charge of this cult.
We labeled a cult. Let's just run with that.
I love it. It's really, really cool. So, guys, give me some final thoughts, and then we'll call this one, and then we'll start preparing for tomorrow's Bears Under the Proof, which I promise our Barflies is going to be a super extra special show. Shane, why don't you start first?
I would just say this is the culmination of our efforts pretty much with this disastrous season. This Firefox campaign has lasted a really long time, and now here we are. This is the day that we've all been waiting for, and I think we're all very hopeful that we have the quarterback, and now we want the guy that's going to lead this quarterback and lead the Chicago Bears really into the 21st century, and we'll get out of playing football from 1983 and start playing it in 2018. So I just urge everybody out there to stay with us. It's going to be a long off season, but we're going to make it worth your while, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Phil, this is your show, Bears Hour Live, and Shane and I kind of hijacked it for today's special presentation. So why don't you say the final words, and then we'll sign off for the rest of the night, all right?
I wanted to wish everybody a happy new year. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the Barflies. Obviously, we're going to shout you out and do all that stuff. I just want to piggyback off of Aldo. You know, I block very rarely. Do I block people? But when it's getting to the point of sheer and utter personal attacks and stupidity, I did. So I really didn't know what was transpiring. And some of you just stepping up in the pocket and delivering like a family, like a friend would. I mean, I know me. That's all I do know. I figured out in my life. It took me this long. I'm the only one I guess I know, because I know I will go to bat for the truth and my friends and my family. The disgusting display that Twitter is, and I'm going to address this cult crap tomorrow night, but the display today to try to attack my children. You say what you want about me. I'm a big man. I could take it in a short stature. I got a big heart. I love people, and I love this show, and I love where the Bears Bar Room is going in the direction. I'm so proud of it. In fact, the time that I've spent in it can't be measured. And I don't look for anything other than more people, more compliments, more followers, more fun, more future shows and creativity, because I know and I believe in this team. And the Barflies, you guys have been tremendous. I feel like this was a culmination of an end, that we were a part of it. I was waiting for Ryan Pace to address Bears Bar Room and say, yes, I did it. I had to fire Fox, Phil, Shane, Aldo, Bears Girl, Nikki, Trey Busy, and Buffon. We got it done. And Chris Armstrong and the rest of the Kieran, all of you. I was expecting that moment, obviously, facetiously, but we did it. And now we're moving on. Happy New Year, 2018. It's going to be fun. We are going to bring a lot of draft, free agency, coach coverage. I got some feelers out to get some coaches that are in the league just to come on the show. And hopefully, as we grow in popularity, as Aldo's saying, you share this stuff and go subscribe and just take 5 minutes out to write something. It really is going to help us in the future of where we're going as far as the Bears Bar Room. So I know this show is Bears Hour Live and we went over, but today was a grandiose day and occasion, and I appreciate you all listening in on live as well as the podcast. And Happy New Year to you. Firefox, it happened.
Phil, I'm surprised you didn't tell people how you spell your last name so they could spell it correctly in the iTunes comments. Hey, you know what? I got something here. I should save this maybe for 100 proof. Everybody that joined in on the sweepstakes for the CD, they were asked to write a comment about what we do. I'm going to read some of those comments on 100 proof tomorrow. We got some really great comments, some constructive criticism that I value highly, and so I'll share some of that. We're supposed to have like a staff meeting, the Bears Barroom people. We're going to do that in 2 or 3 weeks. And I was thinking maybe we should have like a reality show, and our barflies can listen in on our staff meeting and our ideas for stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like keeping up with the Kardashians, keeping up with the barroom people.
Last time we did that, we had somebody quit, I think. Remember?
Yes. Jesus. I intimidated.
Yeah, let's not mention Matthew Balsley's name. Oh, shit.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we can come off a little strong sometimes. Keeping up with all those, like Kieran says. No, it's keeping up with all of us, and thank you all so much for listening to the show. I got 2 pieces of music playing at the same time. That's never a good idea. Let's turn one off. All right. And Bears Girl saying, no. Bears Girl, you're in Mexico now. Have a beer on us.
HR does not approve of going live in a meeting room.
But we approve of her, and we approve of all of our listeners. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, if you drink, please do not drive, and always bear down.
Bear down.
Bye, John Fox.
Firefox. Not a plan, but an anthem. Bears Barroom sending a message to the fan.